Okay, we're back. Steeler postgame 1-0, a big victory today in Atlanta, 18-10 in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. As you can see, we're back to our original background. We got a lot of work to do, folks, on the aesthetics with this podcast. Somebody on YouTube called it the Turkish prison background. So we'll go with that. It's 9 o'clock Sunday night, and I feel like I should be Art Rooney Sr. taking a puff of the victory cigar because that is a really good win for the Steelers on the road, a 4-point dog, starting a quarterback who 5 days ago wasn't going to be the starting quarterback, and a little icing on the cake. Ravens lose, Bengals lose, Browns lose. Steelers now have a 16-game schedule with a 1-game lead on the AFC North. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to try to keep this 15 minutes, maybe. I got about an hour's worth of material. Figure out how to break it all down. But of course, please check me out on my Twitter account, X account, at David M. Todd. About 150 tweets today during the game, after the game. Great interaction. So there's a lot more stuff there to check out. So let's start out. Justin Fields. Performance today, solid B. All you could ask for a guy coming in as not the starter at the beginning of the week, did more or less exactly what the Steelers asked him to do. Didn't turn the ball over. Talked about it before the game. I talk about it every season. Give me one stat after every game in the NFL and tell me, and I get to tell you who won or lost the game. I'm telling you, give me the turnover battle stat, and I'll be right 80% of the time. Steelers 3-0 in the turnover battle. Big win. Justin Fields, known for turning the ball over, didn't fumble, I shouldn't say didn't fumble. How about that? Fumbled the opening snap in the game today. Tell me you didn't go, here we go. I sure did. Rookie center, Justin Fields, fumbled the opening snap, and then that opening drive, a terrible pass on his first throw of the game. Absolutely missed a wide open Van Jefferson, and then not a very good throw to Naji. 0 for 2 starting the game, but finished the game after that 17 for 21 the rest of the way for a $156. Solid performance from Justin Fields. We'll get to a little bit more about the offense as we go on here. Game ball, I don't know if you give it to Chris Boswell or TJ Watt. End of the day, tough decision. Probably going with Bos. What a performance from him. 6 for 6, 5 field goals over 40 yards, 3 field goals over 50 yards, and I'm telling you, the most important play of the game, and I'm not joking about this, any football game where you've got, 160 plays, 140 to 160 plays, it's hard to pick out one play and say, look, this was the most important play of the game. This wasn't a scoring play. This wasn't even that eventful a play. But I think there was 3:27 left. The Steelers have a 4th and 31 because Cameron Johnson has just gotten wiped out, and they called holding on Miles Kilbrew, the up back, and give the Steelers an extra 10 yards, 4th and 31 inside their own 20. That's a bad position for anybody. It's a terrible position for your kicker who's never punted in an NFL game. Bos launches a 43-yard punt with no return. And after a nice game by Bijan, who had a really nice game for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins throws a pick. And that didn't seal the game, but game pretty much in the bag at that point. So I'm giving my, look, well, you want to give it to TJ Watt, probably, maybe more impactful. I'm giving it to Bos, and my play of the game is that 43-yard punt with kind of the game on the line. They're up 5 points. He shanks one, punts one 10 yards, drops the snap, whatever you might do, but he got it done. So really impressive work there. And I will tell you this, a little bit of credit to the coaching staff. One of the things I've talked about for 15 years, I've talked about it for 35 years, but maybe if you followed me for as long as I've been doing this publicly, is how ridiculous it is that kickers aren't able to do the rudimentary punting and punters aren't able to do the rudimentary kicking thing, kick an extra point. Look, they may not get it done perfectly, but when I see NFL teams, when I see a kicker who can't punt, or more absurdly, a punter who can't kick an extra point, most of these guys played soccer or did something like that where they kicked a ball in their life. You can do these two things. Anybody who's played soccer can do these two things. And even if you weren't able to do it, you've been sitting on the sideline for 3/4 of every practice of your adult life. If you don't play another position, that skill's something you got to have. And kudos to Danny Smith, Mike Tomlin, whoever you want to give the kudos to. Most importantly, of course, to Chris Boswell for coming in and getting it done in a really big situation. Word, unfortunately, not great on Cameron Johnston. The Steelers finally maybe find themselves a punter. Going to have an MRI tomorrow, but from the reports from the locker room, Mark Caboli and others, maybe a season-ending injury. Oh, I know. Think back. When the Steelers had a good punter? I don't know. Who are you gonna pick out of the left-footed punters? How far back do we have to go? Sepulveda? Do we have to go further? It's been a while since the Steelers had a good punter. That would be a bad way to go. But game ball, A+ effort. Chris Boswell nailed it from 57 and nailed him the rest of the day, 6 for 6, and then a big punt. So kudos to him. Also, another point, I guess begrudging kudos to Mike Tomlin on this, because it took Mike Tomlin till 2021, 7 years into Boswell's career, for him to realize, hey, maybe instead of punting from the other team's 35-yard line, I should have my guy with the monster leg here, who seems to make every field goal he kicks, kick a field goal. Boswell had never tried more than 4 field goals, only did that once in the first 7 years of his career. Never tried more than 4 field goals over 50 yards. The last 3 years, 7, 9, 7, 6. He's hitting 8. You saw the stats, over 81%. I think he's 24 of 28 from 50 plus over the last three years, and now 1 game. So good job, Tomlin, for sending Boz out there, particularly in that dome environment in week 1. All right, let's get a little bit more into the action. TJ Watt, he is a damn game wrecker. Is there a better defensive player in football? I don't think so. I saw a bunch of people on Twitter today, a bunch of guys, talking heads, Louis Riddick, a nice clip from Mike Florio, Jason Garrett, all talking about TJ Watt and how good a football player he is. That guy is an absolute game wrecker. He's a monster. He's a beast. A couple things. One, go back and watch the fumble in the second half where ball's on the ground, and watch this going forward. Nobody gets on a football on the ground faster than TJ Watt. If you watch that play again, I guarantee you, when that ball snapped and it goes on the ground, there are 3 Falcons who are closer than TJ Watt. That guy, beeline, boom, down on the ground, get the fumble. We're going the other way. Steelers ball. That's TJ Watt. The guy's a monster. Okay. Okay. The refs weren't going to be a big part of this podcast. We're in limited time here tonight. But, man, did the refs suck. They really sucked. And that offside call on TJ Watt, apparently he did talk to Mike Florio or Jason Garrett. I think it was Florio. Talked to Florio after the game and said the ref told him at halftime, hey, maybe I missed that one. Now, look, if you watch that again, you can watch it 20 times. It's really close. If you've got a slow motion stop action camera and you're looking right over top the line of scrimmage, bam, he moves at exactly the same time the center snaps the ball. But the problem is he's starting his upper body movement. He's not into the neutral zone, but he's starting his upper body movement when the center has done his head bob. And that's where the timing is. But when that ball moves, TJ Watt is not across the line. It's really close. Tough to, you wouldn't blink an eye if it got called an offside and it was a different kind of play. But that play, he goes in, has a strip sack, doesn't get, Steelers get the ball, and then what happens? Of course, the Falcons score their one and only touchdown on the next play. So that was a killer. Also, you have to feel a little bit bad for TJ. The other time he had a sack earlier in the game that caused a fumble. Well, it was a defensive face mask call, I think, on which one? I think it was on Dante Jackson on that one. But TJ Watt, you watched the Falcons early in that game. All they did, run away from TJ Watt. First couple drives. Their first drive, Falcons' first drive of the game, was by far their best drive of the game. And the Steelers have shown this. So again, Terrell Austin, Steeler defensive staff, give them a ton of credit. What we see in games, and continue to watch for this, is other teams have shown an ability sometimes to come out with their scripted plays and move the ball on the Steelers. The The Steelers have shown a fantastic ability to make adjustments and shut teams down. I'll have to go back and look at how many times the Steelers held other opponents scoreless or without a touchdown in the second half last year. And that's exactly what they did tonight. Today, they went out, gave up 3 on the opening drive, gave up the touchdown we just talked about on the Watt play that shouldn't have been, and then came out and threw a shutout in the second half. So credit to Terrell Austin and the defensive staff on that. But really, really good work. You saw the Falcons, as I was saying, they were coming out and they were going left side, left side, left side, running at Cam, running at Alex Highsmith, and having some success. But after that, nothing. The one time they went at TJ's side early in the game, tackle for loss. Made a fantastic play for a 4-yard loss. So defensive player of the year, early leader in the clubhouse. My book, probably everybody's book, TJ Watt. Outstanding first game. Also defensively, saw a couple things. The two defensive backs making their two of the defensive backs of the 3 making their Steelers debut. Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson. Kudos to them. I said, look, the question marks, said I'm on record, is not loving the Deontay Johnson trade. Both those guys came up with interceptions. A really nice catch on the interception by Deshaun Elliott in the first half. And boy, Dante Jackson's play, super big play late in the game, and a really nice return down deep into Falcons territory where the Steelers were able to put up the last field goal that made that an 8-point lead and essentially sealed the game. So solid stuff from the defense. Again, we'll get into this a little bit more maybe in the next podcast. But overview across the board defensively, kudos. I'm just take a quick look at the defensive sacks. Minka led with, I haven't even looked at these yet, 6 solo tackles. He had 7 tackles altogether. Beanie Bishop with 4 solo tackles. He was a guy, best thing in the world about Beanie Bishop, you only noticed him one time. Unfortunately, the one time is when he seemed to kind of lose his responsibility on the touchdown. Receiver went behind him. I don't know if he thought he was passing him off and had help behind him. He didn't. Wide open. That was the Falcons' touchdown. But look, he got out of the first game more or less unscathed. So kudos to him. The rest of the defense, Mon Adams with the sack coming up the middle with Cam. We had the 2 interceptions we talked about. The fumble recovery by TJ. Win the turnover battle, 3-zip. And there was one other guy I wanted to mention. I want to mention Peyton Wilson. You saw his motor in this game. I don't know how many snaps he played. It'll be interesting to get that number. I think he was probably around half the snaps, but he was in there, made 3 tackles, saw him go sideline to sideline. That's what the guy's known for, having a great motor, being a very athletic guy. What I loved is early in the game, on that drive, the Falcons' first drive, where he made a tackle. The announcer, the color guy, I love the color guy, Greg Olson, but I think he was wrong on this one. He's like, if Wilson doesn't make that tackle, that's a touchdown. I think Minka was right there to make the tackle. But Peyton Wilson got up, and he was jawing with, I can't remember if it was London or Pitts or one of the Falcons wide receivers. You could just see him going back and forth because A, I think he got held, and B, he still made the play. So fun to see him out there in his maiden voyage in the NFL, and I think he accounted himself pretty well. So defense, nice job across the board. You give up 10 points, you're going to win most of the time in the NFL. The rest of the offense, George Pickens, he's a beast. God, the officials. We're back at the officials. The other call they blew, the offensive pass interference call on Pickens, which was going to be, I think, I don't even know, what was it, a 40-yard gain down the left sideline? That's points. Field goal range for Boz, that's at least 3 points, maybe. Hard to say the Steelers would have punched it in because they didn't punch it in any other time in this game. But felt like you definitely had points on the board taken away. Now, 2 things about it. One, George pushed him, okay? He had both hands on him. And if you want to go letter of the law and say both hands on him, and it looked like he got separation because of it, though he didn't lock his arms. They talk about that all the time, right? Hands on him, didn't lock his arms. This will get it for you every time. Didn't lock his arms, turns, makes the catch. Okay, I think it was a terrible call. So I think there were 2 really tough calls against the Steelers. The one on TJ on the offsides. That one leads immediately to 7 points for the Falcons. This one takes 3 off the board for the Steelers on the offensive side of things. That's 10 points in an 18-10 game. That is a big deal. one other thing about the officials. Again, follow me at David M. Todd. All this stuff is on my Twitter feed. You can catch it during the game. I love the back and forth. The pass to Pickens, which was a 51-yard gain where he was down at the 18, where they called him down by contact and moved it back to the 28. Okay, I looked at this thing 10 times. He's not close to being down when he cuts away from the receiver to make the catch. He makes a good catch. That, by the way, Justin Fields lays that out, touchdown. Nobody's really talking about that ball was underthrown. George goes down and makes a really nice catch. George is money. George is really developing into a great receiver. So he makes the money catch. He gets up. I think it was Terrell who comes around, doesn't touch him on the way down. There's not contact. Like you can say, you know how they sometimes say, oh, you touched him and as he was going down to the catch and that counts. There wasn't any of that. He didn't touch him when he's on the ground. He sure as hell didn't touch him as he was getting up. So now it's a free play. And with the Steelers offense, 10 yards there, 28-18. Again, can't count the extra 4 points. They did get 3 out of it. But, another bullshit call by the refs, which, they all felt like there were money calls and they all felt like they were going against the Steelers. But again, little black and gold glasses here, so maybe a tint of bias. So I'll chalk that one up. What else happened offensively? Not a lot. Solid game from Naji. One of the things I thought we would see, and I told you this in the middle of the week, I thought Jaylen Warren would be right in taking his normal role. That didn't happen. He missed a couple weeks of practice, but he was a full go starting on Wednesday of this week. But we saw Cordero Patterson getting the carries that normally Jaylen Warren would get in that first half. Patterson, I neither here nor there. I don't think he didn't have many holes. He didn't do much in the 4 carries he got, or the couple pass attempts that were thrown to him. And we saw Jaylen Warren in the second half. I think he caught a couple passes, 1 or 2 passes. He definitely had 2 carries in the run game. So expect to see more of Jaylen Warren when we go out. Steelers are out in Denver next week. The rest of the offense, we talked about George, we talked about Naji, as always. Naji always runs hard. I think he was really close on a couple carries, busting him out. He had 1 carry, kind of ducked under, got 8 or 10 yards up the middle, was a nice run. The other one that sticks out is late in the game on the Steelers' last drive, when you knew they were trying to kill clock. Naji had like a 4-yard gain, and he got up going like this. And what he was talking about is he was that close to busting that into the end zone. Didn't happen, but a really kind of a typical Naji game, solid workmanlike effort, 20 carries, 70 yards. One of his best carries in the game, he had a carry where he lost 2 yards. He was hit 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, got hit by about 5 guys, 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and still managed to grind out another yard for a 2-yard loss. It was a money carry. It was the best 2-yard loss you'll ever see. So, solid from Naji. The downside, we've talked about George. We saw a little bit from Pat, 4 catches, 27 yards. But the downside, exactly what we're talking about. I don't know how Mike has comfort in the wide receiver group. The rest of the group, 2 catches for 8 yards. Calvin Austin with 1, I think for 7. Van Jefferson with 1 for 1. Steelers are obviously going to need more from those wide receivers. I don't know where they're going to get it, honestly. I don't know where they're going to get it. We'll see. The other thing about that, and this is, man, if you follow me, you know that I have banged on something almost. The only thing I bang on as much as clock management is the Steelers never using the middle of the field. And I want to put up my chart right here of Justin Fields' passing attempts. Pretend this is the hash marks. There are 0 passing attempts in here. I got it up on my Twitter feed. Everything is to the outside again. It looks like a replay of everything we've seen the last 5 years. 0 passes over the middle. Going to have to find a way to get Freiermuth, to get Calvin Austin, to get Van Jefferson, to get Scotty Miller. Going to have to find guys who are able to go over the middle and catch balls, because it's too easy to defend this passing game if there is no threat over the middle of the field. So that's on the negative side. Other negatives, obviously, Cam Johnson injury is the biggest one. Joey Porter left late in the game. Looked like a shoulder the way he went into the tent. I didn't hear an update. I haven't gotten one yet, but let's assume that's not too serious. That was a negative. So, but overall, offensively, Justin Fields, he did well enough. And hey, the offensive line, 2 sacks in this game. The first one, Justin Fields is backpedaling like a maniac, can't decide which way to go, and one guy brings him down. Those are the bad sacks that we don't want to see from Justin Fields. Exactly what he's been known for, kind of couldn't make a decision, kept retreating, and I think he took a 15-yard loss on that play, on a play where he just needs to break one way or the other, kind of throw the ball past the line of scrimmage and get it out of bounds. That was a bad one. The second one, I'm having trouble remembering. It was a little bit late in the game, but only 2 sacks on the game. That's a positive. And look, I thought the offensive line did fine. The fact that we're not talking about Dan Moore, we're not talking about Broderick Jones, we're not talking about Spencer Anderson, that's good. And, of course, Frazier making his start. When was he most noticeable? On that opening snap. You get a little bit concerned. But they were able to do some things on short yardage. Overall, look, that's the type of thing you got to look at the tape, and guys who have better eyes and understand the offensive line play better than I do can give us a little more insight and get some of their thoughts, and I'll pass those along on Twitter as well, and I'll look at it again and see what I think. But hey, solid work from the offensive line, just like Justin Fields did what they were supposed to do, and they did enough of it to get a win, put up 18 points. Coaching, I think it's fine. Again, the defense, a lot of credit. They made the adjustments they needed to make. Across the board, you got to give the defensive coaching staff high marks. Special teams, what are you going to say? They did almost everything right. We saw one return of a Johnston punt for, I think it was 50-yard punt and a 20 or 30-yard return. Took it all the way back to midfield. So they blew the coverage on that one time. I'm sure Danny Smith will be all up their butt about that. So that was the one special teams error. We didn't see a lot on kickoff either way, but hey, good job at Calvin Austin. Got to see him in the return game. Very solid work from him. And then Mike Tomlin. Yeah, look, he got this team prepared. They went on the road and they got a season opening win. So, you start that, that gives you, your starting point at the very bottom is a B-. You had a quarterback, you had to make a decision. Obviously, I think Mike made the right decision. You can't start a quarterback who's 80%. You had a guy who has NFL experience. They had the right guy in there. These guys were prepared to play. They came out good to go. They played physical football. They looked like they knew what they were trying to get done. How did Tomlin do in the clock management? I think at the end of the first half, we saw that drive where the Steelers got 3 points. And that was a big drive. Obviously, in this game, any drive that got points, those are big drives. So the one at the end of the half, this would be my one clock management issue. He makes a throw. They get a first down play to Calvin Austin. The one catch he makes for 7 yards. And with 30 seconds left, the Steelers have 2 timeouts. My view is Mike is always going to be ultra conservative on this stuff, and I hate it. He's not going to use timeouts because the other team might get the ball. I don't think in that situation, I think you got to use it. Now, you could argue with me and say, hey, he's saving it for second down where you throw the ball over the middle of the field. Well, Christ, they don't throw the ball over the middle of the field. So use the damn timeout. They did throw it outside on second down to get a first down and then set up the big play to George Pickens. Now, I do have something to say about this play. Let's see what this was. Pickens, was that the one I think he got? Maybe that's the one he got 40 on. It was a great play. It was a great play designed by Arthur Smith. Roll left, come back, throw to the right. Pickens running an in route from the right side, bends it back out. He's wide open. Almost had a heart attack. I'm sure you did too if you're watching this. So George gets the ball. I think there were 9 seconds left when the play starts. George gets the ball and he wants to beat his man and score. Holy Christ. George, these are the plays. I would be losing my mind right now on George and the coaching staff if time had run out as he's running down, and getting tackled at the 10-yard line. He has to have a better sense of awareness. Now, it turns out he planted right, kind of gets with the guy, and is able to get out of bounds with 1 second left. But they go back and review it. They went back to review it to see if he got out of bounds with 1 second left. They go and review it, and they see that his foot was out by that much with 3 seconds left. And the Steelers get to kick him. Boswell comes on and does his thing, and the Steelers get 3 points. So that was concerning. So anyway, to Tomlin, I think he didn't. I think he should have used the timeout there earlier. Might have given them another play, but kudos for the offense to get 3 points out of that situation. Overall, I give Tomlin, look, an A-. You go into it's season opener. You go in on the road and you get a win as an underdog with your backup quarterback. Love it, love it. Steelers are 1-0. The victory cigar is lit, and even better, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns are all 0-1. Kudos to Scotty Miller. I don't know that he's ever held before. He did the job on that last field goal where Boz came in and hit the chip shot, managed to get the snap and get it down. Everybody says that's an impossible task. It's not that impossible. Good job for Scotty Miller, though. He got it done. I'm sure I've got 20 other things that aren't coming to the top of my head, but I think we've run, pretty far into the past the 15 minutes that I wanted to go. So again, if you give me the feedback, I want to get this up where people can listen to it as a podcast. If you can only listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but you're going to see it on YouTube, and you're going to see it you can find it on Twitter right now. Again, if you want to be involved somehow, editing, sound, distribution, all those things, hit me up on my DMs. I'm pretty sure they're open. So Steelers win 18-10. Steelers are 1-0. It was a good Sunday. Thanks for checking out the Unnamed Podcast with David Todd.